Good afternoon, writing community, and welcome to the show. Today I have with me the wonderful actor and author, Laura Cayouette, and I hope we got that right because I did ask her before we came on the show. Cayouette, is that correct?
Cayouette.
Cayouette. Oh, damn it. So hello, it's wonderful to have you here, and I'm so glad you came and coming to speak to us. And I hope things are all well.
So far, so good. I mean, look, we're in the time of Corona. There's only so much I can say, you know?
Oh, I know.
You guys are past your worst. We're not.
Oh, I know America dealing with a lot of issues at the moment as well, and
Yes.
coronavirus on top, I guess. But that's an interesting point that you brought up. I mean, you do a lot of teachings and coaching, I guess, online, don't you? So is that actually been a detriment to your teaching, or has that actually helped improve, I guess, what you're doing?
I started taking some online classes, which is something I guess all of us have done, have taken something. And I went to a webinar and I really enjoyed the host of the webinar. And so I looked him up. I actually already knew his guest. And so I already knew how she is to deal with and what it's like to get answers out of her and all that. And I was very impressed by him handling her. And so when I looked him up, he has studio classes, and right now his studio is shut down. And he offered a class called One Line Wonder. And I reached out to him and said, I wrote the book on small parts. And so I started teaching with him. He's out of Georgia. So that has come up out of the Corona. I wouldn't have taken that. Well, she wouldn't have been interviewed. I wouldn't have seen it. And none of that would have happened if I hadn't been in the time of Corona. So I'm now teaching there a couple of times a month, and I really enjoy it.
So there is a silver lining.
Yeah.
I mean, this whole show, to be honest with you, was because of coronavirus.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
So
wow.
So it's for some people it's been a terrible thing. In touch wood for a lot of people that I know it's been nothing.
And
but,
how did this come out of Corona?
Well, there is the writing community chat show is called The Writing Community because on Twitter, if you're an author, the hashtag writing community is an absolute attribute to any author, whether you're just beginning or you're, well into your career. And there's so much information and advice there. So when I was going through my process of releasing my first book last year, and very near to releasing the second one next month, the writing community was such a help to me that I thought there must be a way to sort of give this back. And of course, we all fight the battle of analytics on Twitter. So a lot of important tweets go missing. So I thought this would be a great way to actually focus all that attention and get some advice in there as well. So, we reached out to a few people and then this became. So it's.
Excellent.
And as we're talking about that, before I forget, I do have to open a beer, and I do apologize if this offends anyone. We have sponsors on the show, and if you've been listening recently on the podcast or on watching on YouTube, you will have seen this. So I'll just pop the cover up in the top right corner there. This week's sponsor is someone who has been fantastic with the show and has been there since day one. In fact, he created that wonderful video at the start of this, and many of our videos he's actually created for us. And that is Ross Young. His information and his Twitter handle is there at Ink, DISR. EGARDIT, and that's quite a mouthful there. So that is on the screen, and I will leave it in the show description. And his book is called Deadheads, and it's about a washed-up cop with a bad attitude and a drinking problem, ironic, and a troubled past. But he's also dead, but that's okay because apparently so is everyone else. And that's a very well-received book on Amazon. And I just nearly dropped my bottle opener, which is my big dinosaur that you guys will have seen before. So thank you, Ross, and I hope your book continues to do very well. So I'll just get on with that. Cool. So in terms of, you've got quite a fascinating career, Laura. You've been acting for a long time, but you've also been writing books for a very long time as well. And which one came first, if you don't mind me asking?
My chickens and eggs have been racing each other for a while because I actually thought I would be a writer.
Okay.
I got my degrees in English literature and creative writing. And I was starting my doctorate. I thought I would be a professor, and I thought I would write during my sabbaticals. And that seemed like a very exciting and perfect life. It seemed like it would lead to things like travel and, um, you know, meeting interesting people, having good conversation, and using my brain. And, it seemed like it was a good thing for me. And so I that was the path I was on. And I was getting ready to start my doctorate. I had found an advisor and was literally like this far from starting when I got pulled in this other direction. And so I was very late to acting. I didn't even start studying acting until I was 25, 26.
Okay.
And I studied I studied throughout my career, but I studied and did not work in New York for over 3 years. And then I moved to LA and studied and did not work for another 2 years or so before I really attempted to enter the market. So I was already over 30 when I began acting, which is the age where most women look at retirement, especially back then in the 80s and 90s, because that's how long ago this was. Back then, certainly women would retire out around 28 or so. And so that was something I didn't see coming. And it kind of postponed my writing career for a while because I, when in Rome, I lived in LA for 18 years. So I wrote screenplays, and I took courses there at Writers Boot Camp and, figured out how to be a screenwriter instead of a fiction writer. And I wrote, at least, I don't know, a dozen, 15, I don't know, a bunch of screenplays.
Yeah.
And I kept working away at this novel that I had known I would write my whole life. It was the reason that I got my master's in creative writing, was in order to earn the right to write this novel. And so at some point, I'm doing Django Unchained, and I am spending a lot of my downtime with a lot of the local actors here who, some of them, it was their first job. And for many of them, they were starting out, whether it was their first job or not. And they would sit around asking each other questions. And of course, they're all in the same sort of boat together. So it wasn't like they had the answers. They're just asking each other to try and sort things out. And I realized, this was happening every day, and I was there for months. And so I realized at some point that these were all things that were really easy for me to answer. And so when Django wrapped, when I was wrapped out of Django, because that movie just kept going, I started writing No Small Parts, an actor's guide to turning minutes into moments and moments into a career, with foreword by Richard Dreyfuss and endorsements by Kevin Costner, Lou Diamond Phillips, et cetera, et cetera. So that was the first book that I put out there. Actually, I had edited my aunt's diary as a how-to guide for widows, so I had done that. But yeah, so I put No Small Parts out, and then thought, well, shoot, if I'm going to be actually completing books and putting them out there, I should probably go ahead and finish this novel I've been working on for over 20 years. So I finished Lemonade Farm, that I had been working on literally for decades. And I finished that and put that out. And then in the next 4 years, I wrote 5 mystery books set here in New Orleans.
It's amazing.
So I now have 7 books.
7. I thought I saw that there was 9 on your website, or is that?
It might be that they're different editions or whatever.
Oh, okay.
I have 7 titles.
Something you just mentioned there about, your books were endorsed by a lot of people that are well known. So Richard Dreyfuss, for example, on the book No Small Parts, she nailed the daily life of an actor in LA about as perfectly detailed as it gets. And that's fantastic to hear from a well-established actor as well. But what gripped me from the sort of reviews that are on your books on your website was how much culture is reflected in those reviews. Almost, it's like, and you've got a big sort of I don't want to say obsession, because that might not be the right word, but like you really like your festivals and those the street festivals on the website, the blog.
On LA to NOLA, my blog. Yes. Well, the thing is that we have the state of Louisiana has over 300 festivals a year, so there's more than one per day, and the city of New Orleans has over 100. So there's really very few times until Corona that there isn't a festival here. You know, festivals are just an ongoing part because each festival lasts, 2 to 3 days as well.
Yeah.
So if you have 100 festivals, each lasting between 1 and 3 days, as an average, there's pretty much always a festival to go. And so, that's a very big part of our culture here. It's a very big part of our daily life here. And it's also part of how the community operates, because a lot of these festivals are vehicles for fundraising and giving back to the community.
Definitely. I mean, when it comes to writing about all the culture, and there's a lot of food and drink references in some of the reviews you've got, is that something you've acquired as a skill or developed while writing, or is it something that you just feel passionate about that you want to portray in your books?
Gosh, I am so passionate about my city. It is ridiculous. I have come here since I was born. My family is from Louisiana, so I've been coming to New Orleans my whole life, and it's always been my favorite city in the world. I grew up internationally. I'm well traveled, and because of my career, I got to see a lot of the world. And I can tell you of places that have more of this or better of that, but my favorite city in planet Earth is New Orleans. And I could go on for hours and days telling you why it is absolutely the very best place on the planet.
Well, that's very intriguing to me as someone who's very untraveled.
Yeah,
one day I'll get my break, I'm sure. But I'll get around. But why if you can summarize, I know it's going to be impossible to summarize, but give me a couple of highlights. Why, if you were saying to someone, come and see New Orleans, what would be, say, a couple of things that you need to go and see?
I think one thing is just that people here love it here. I think that makes it unique in and of itself, because I lived in LA for 18 years, and I lived in New York for 3.5 years, and I lived in DC for, I've lived in lots of really cool, interesting cities. And I don't remember ever, not one time, anybody ever saying they loved any of those cities. Yeah, and even the T-shirts in New York when I moved there, because I moved there in the late 80s, the T-shirts were "I love New York." That's exactly what they said, is I heart NY. I love New York. And there, was the commercials for "I love New York." There was this whole 80s push about loving New York. But when I moved there, I don't remember anybody saying I love this city, and it was a disaster when I was there. It was dangerous and scary, and it was no place for a young woman on her own, that's for sure. And so I've lived in smaller areas too. The book Lemonade Farm is based on some time in Sykesville, Maryland, which is a very small town. And I lived in Mobile, Alabama for grad school. And so I've lived lots of places, and I don't remember anybody ever saying they love their city. And here, you can't find anybody that's not going to tell you how much that they would die for this city.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Sounds great. Sounds fantastic.
So I think people make it different because the people actually care. And this is a community, and we're all in this together.
Yeah. Well, that makes a big difference, doesn't it? I mean, a community feeling is so much more, I guess, that you can just feel a lot freer and a lot more relaxed and even trusting with people than you do in somewhere that's a bit more on edge, I guess. So
right.
Yeah.
Well, and we also have a 300-year-old culture, which is not long for Europe, but for America, 300 years is quite long. It's older than our country. We also have, my phone is ringing. Nobody ever calls that number, and I'll bet you it's a sales call. Well, because nobody ever calls that number. And then I also think that our culture is so different than any other culture on the planet. Like, it's just so.
Do you need me to pause that?
I told him I was doing an interview. So
it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. So I think our culture here is just so. Oh my God! Sorry.
Go on. It's fine.
No, that's somebody else. I don't know why I'm suddenly so popular. So yeah, our culture here is so unique and rare. If I were to just even pick one thing, the Mardi Gras Indians, which if you poked through my blog, I'm sure you passed. The Mardi Gras Indians are a thing that it's mostly men, and they spend the entire year sewing these itty bitty beads called seed beads. And they have other beads as well, but most of the beads are these itty bitty teeny tiny beads. And they spend the whole year sewing these into panoramic views and I don't know, stories.
Yeah.
They sew them into storytelling, like paintings. And they become suits covered in feathers and beads that weigh over 100 pounds. And some of these men are, elderly and infirm, and they, it's quite a deal for them to wear these suits. But they're also thousands of dollars. They cost thousands of dollars to make these suits of beads and feathers, and these are not necessarily wealthy people. And so
it's fine.
It's going to pick up on
sure about that one
now because it's already picked up on the fourth ring before. So now we will have the second ring.
It's fine.
Honestly. No, it's done now because now he's getting it that I'm not picking up. So, in any case, so I think, when they parade through the streets, which they do annually, to see all of that beauty. And it's all in tribute. Oh my God. Okay. I just took a picture. This is actually a Mardi Gras Indian right here.
Oh, wow.
And his
it's fascinating.
But here, let me just text him and tell him that I am online and that he already should remember that.
That is fine.
Oh, apparently I made the paper. That's why.
Oh, wow. in a good way or a bad way? Hopefully a good way. This is like an exclusive right now.
No, nobody knows that it's me, so I'm gonna keep it quiet. But
okay.
It's front page, and nobody knows it's me. So
wow, yeah, keep that quiet.
Yeah, but yeah. So the Mardi Gras Indians, they are in tribute to the Native Americans who harbored runaway slaves.
Okay.
And let them pass as Native Americans and kept them as part of their culture. And so this is in tribute to that. And of course, nobody living today is part of that story. That story is hundreds of, it's 100 years old now, but it's still important that we honor that. And it's the most gorgeous thing. And the music is incredible. They don't use anything but percussion. I don't know. I could go on and on. It's the look it up on my blog, LA Canola.
Let's take it back to your writing before we sort of run away on some random questions, because I do tend to go off on some tangents. But we do love stories, so by all means. So you spent a lot of time writing novels and sort of fiction work and for your, I guess, education. But when it comes to screenwriting, there's quite a few people that kind of want to make the jump from being a self-published author to perhaps writing screenplays. Are there a massive difference between the two? And if so, which do you prefer?
I prefer novels. Okay. Yeah. And I will tell you 1,000 reasons why, but the most important is the tyranny of the narrative. The novel is as long as it needs to be to tell the story.
Yeah.
The screenplay is 120 pages max, no matter what. And I'm sorry, but that is, look, one of the people I really love working with is Quentin Tarantino. And when he writes his scripts, because he is who he is, he sort of gets to follow his own set of rules.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, they still have to fit it into the world of filmmaking. Even when he is himself, who has won multiple Academy Awards for screenwriting, he is still not trusted to remake the medium. And so, for example, when we did Kill Bill, that was a script. It was I believe, 222-page script. And I said to him, I was like, what are you doing with 222-page script? It's 100 pages longer than it's supposed to be. It's nearly double the length. And he said, don't worry. When you read it, you'll understand. It's going to be 120 minutes. Don't worry about it. So when I read it, I saw why he was saying that is because he actually went ahead and enjoyed the process of writing. Yeah. So, for example, there's a scene in Kill Bill where Uma Thurman and Vivica Fox are fighting in Vivica's living room. Mm-hmm. And, well, Vivica's character's living room. And there's a shelf set full of curios, and one of them throws the other one into that shelf set and destroys all the curios. In the script, he describes every single curio that's on the shelves. This decorative plate and this, like he tells you, because it tells us who the Vivica Fox character is. It tells us about her because of what she collects and what she accumulates and what she notices and cares about. And so he describes every single thing and then says, and then she throws her into it and smashes it all. And so as I'm reading that, I'm going, well, yeah, that's a whole page of description that will literally take a millisecond of film time.
Yeah.
So the rule of 1 page equals 1 minute of film time falls apart under the weight of something like that. That said, when the movie was completed, as you may have noticed, it became 2 movies, Kill Bill 1 and Kill Bill Volume 2. And that's because it doesn't matter if you're Quentin. It doesn't matter if you've made Pulp Fiction, which is not only one of the most successful independent films of all time, but it's also really long.
It is.
And it doesn't matter whether Gone with the Wind has already existed or Dances with Wolves or whatever. They still were like, no, you have to make it 2 movies. And so then you end up with a 6-month intermission between Volume 1 and 2.
For someone who really enjoys watching films, always have done, that brings a whole new perspective to how people talk about how well actors do to pull off a part, because they're going off such little information. And, they're creating all that in their heads then whereas obviously you're saying Quentin wants to visualize or even write descriptively, but
he certainly does in a way that I hadn't seen anybody else do. And I told him, I said, you've invented a new thing called the snovel. I call it the novel because it's a script novel.
Yeah.
And I would prefer if he would just write his scripts his way and not try to fit into our puny-minded world of the tyranny of the narrative. Because I do think that filmmaking can handle more than one story structure. And I think that Quentin is certainly capable of developing more than one story structure. So I wish that Hollywood and my industry were more open to a variety of storytelling methods. I think they've beaten this one to death. So I think we can expand our mind. And now with streaming, there's really no excuses anymore for not just doing whatever the artist wants. But yeah, that's something that for me it's so freeing to be able to write a story in the amount of time it takes to tell the story and not in 120 pages or less. And then the other thing is that, with self-publishing, you're in charge of your output. You're in charge of what makes it to the public, what the audience has access to. Whereas if you write a script, you're still at least 2 years away, if everything went right, from anybody ever seeing anything, because once you write the script, then you have to forget all the selling it, which is, that's years right there. But then pretend you sold it the day you wrote it. Pretend this fantasy thing happened where I wrote the end and boom, it was sold. You would still have to wait for there to be studio deals made and distribution deals made, and then they'd have to hire you, all your directors and your producers and all this stuff, and then they got to get a cast, and then by the time you get to any of that, you're not going to recognize your script to rust me. Yeah, because there's a lot of cooks in your kitchen.
As someone who writes as well as acts, have you ever thought about, moving into the producing world because you can see that side of it as well? Does
I
that
do
interest you?
produce. I have produced, and I'm actually currently working on something. But I don't have the best luck, though. I mean, producing
Mm.
is that is another labor of love. And I was producing something last year, and my producing partner passed away on Thanksgiving, and so I'm no longer working with that project,
Yeah.
and that was a year and a half of my life that I put into that project. And I was, by the time you spend a year and a half into something, you're a little bit in love with it.
Yeah, of course.
So, and I spent 7 years getting Hellride made with Quentin, and that should tell everybody everything. We had from day one, Quentin Tarantino, Michael Madsen. What else did we have? We had, and the Weinstein Company. We had the three of those things from day one, and it took 7 years to get that movie made.
It's incredible.
Yeah. Whereas, I mean, how many books could I have written in 7 years?
If we go back to the books, because obviously with a writing show, and although you've got a fascinating career on that side as well, can we go back to sort of where the inspiration for you to write came from?
Well, with Lemonade Farm, which was my first book, my first novel, that came from my own childhood. It's obviously not a memoir, it's a novel, but a lot of the stories, a lot of the characters, a lot of certainly the entire concept come from my own childhood. It's a coming of age story of a 11, 12-year-old girl who came from a suburban household, and all of the people on her block, all the suburban families, all divorce at the same time. And the broken bits of these families move into a 200-year-old farmhouse in the country. And so it's it takes place in 1976. So it's about that time where adults were having a second childhood, and so children were growing up way fast to make up that gap. And so it's about that coming of age during that era, but it's also about, what do you do with all that hippie energy when the Vietnam War ends? And, it's about a lot of things. The bottom line is it's about family, and that, the family you're born with isn't necessarily the family that you'll do life with. And that family is what you make it.
So that was sort of the driving force behind you thinking that you want to create this story and, tell it to the world, basically.
I knew I was going to write that story as it was occurring in my childhood. Like as the things were happening around me, I was like, somebody should be writing this down. Somebody should be recording this story, because I knew that it was a story about America. I knew that it was a story about family. I knew that what I was living was unique and rare and disappearing. Okay. Communes and collectives are a perfectly legitimate way of life, and they make way more sense with the way the economy is and all that. And still, it's seen as other. It's seen as oddball or somehow connected to religion or philosophy of gun ownership or something. I don't know, but whatever that is, that wasn't what it was. And I wanted to tell what it was, what forming your own family is. And I'm so glad, because that's something that happened over and over in my life. I moved a lot, and I've entered a lot of industries where a lot of us are sort of orphaned away from our real lives. And so, I've formed lots of families over my time, and I'm glad I had that skill as a young person.
So I'm assuming your writing process may have changed quite a bit then
It did. To go from writing one book in 20 years to writing 5 books in 4 years, I had to change.
Yeah. So I'm assuming it's gone a lot more in depth now, and more of a process, because you need to get your work done. You've got a schedule almost now you've got to produce this work.
I definitely schedule. And what's the biggest change is that I took everything I learned from screenwriting and applied it to novel writing. When I was getting my master's in creative writing, they teach you a lot about writing what you know and all that kind of stuff, but they really emphasize that the secret to writing is rewriting.
Okay.
So the idea being that you get everything down, just vomit it all up, get it all down, and then fix it later. And I'm a big believer in that. I think that you do not stop writing until you get to the words "the end," and then you rewrite. I do not rewrite as I'm writing. It's totally
sounds very familiar.
It leads to writer's block. It leads to losing your way. It's a terrible, terrible plan to rewrite as you're writing. But a lot of people get tempted and then they get lost in it.
So do you plot or do you panzer?
I now use index cards, and I do it like a script now. I use all the techniques that I used for screenwriting, and I will do it this way till I die now, because this is it. This is so much easier. I mean, I was able to plot an entire 5-book series and then just pump them out, and I never hit writer's block. It never was like, oh, what am I going to do next?
So
because I totally understood my story.
So in terms of the index cards, is it basically like plotting an outline with the cards and then use that to produce the story?
Yes. Now I will say that mine's a little tiny bit different insofar as that because of my screenwriting history and because of my work as an actor, I also insert cards that have dialogue bits, character bits, details, So I have cards for all sorts of things, not just plot points.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, and I don't like the word plot so much, because I feel like I write character-driven stories. So yes, there's a plot in there. There's always a story, but the story is coming out of the people living, like how real life works.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, because in real life, there's not some plot and then we're moving through the plot. In real life, we're doing our lives and a plot forms. And so I prefer that version of writing, where a story arises out of people organically trying to do their lives.
It's great tip. I mean, there's a lot of new authors that kind of listen to the show as well. So that tip in general is a good tip, that, having a plot per se is a structure that may need to be a bit more flexible. So I like that as a tip. And we've got a couple of staple questions on the show, and I'll ask you one of them now. If you could take any character that is already written in fiction, TV, film, and then create them, take them as your own character and work with them, who would you choose?
Oh, Lord. I have no idea. I mean, I feel like I kind of get to do that in my acting sometimes. I kind of get to take characters that are archetypes and then play with them and humanize them and take them out of being a type and into being a person. But when I think of the characters that I'm most like, that just stay with me, I don't even remember her name, but the one in She's Come Undone, the Wally Lamb novel, she is sort of a female version of Ignatius Reilly from Confederacy of Dunces. And if you live in New Orleans, Confederacy of Dunces is right next to the Bible. It's in every house, at least one copy. If you're married, there are 2 copies, So, I mean, that's just the way it is. And so to read a female version of that same repugnant character, is a totally repugnant character. It's just a terrible person in every way. And there's something that you can't let go of about that character. So that's a character I'm intrigued by, but she has so little to do with me. She just intrigues me. The character that I my whole life guess I most, this is a bad word because she's a terrible person, but admired, was Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind.
Okay.
Because I guess for the same reason that we like the bride in Kill Bill. Because she makes a list and then does everything on the list. If I have to lie, cheat, steal, kill, I will never go hungry again. And then she lies, she cheats, she steals, and she kills. And I don't know, there's something about the way she is indomitable, the way she is willing to be every kind of woman there is in order to get what she wants. She can be everything from dainty and in need of rescuing to a fierce creature that you would not want to tangle with. And I think, I guess probably because there's just not that many women like that in the history of cinema, she really appeals to me.
I mean, that makes a good character, doesn't it? Someone who is they're vulnerable, has sort of vulnerabilities, but they're also tenacious and deadly. I mean, it's the perfect mix of I guess a female character in modern cinema. So as you said,
Well,
if
and
that's
that's why I
lacking,
like the bride in Kill Bill,
yeah,
is that she's the B movie version of the Gone with the Wind Scarlet character.
mm.
She's the drive-in movie version of that. And so I really like the bride in Kill Bill for the same reasons.
Have you got a favorite role that you've played in acting?
Well, I've been very blessed. I've had some really good things to sink my teeth into, but I mean, for so many reasons, I think it's pretty easy to just go with Django. Laura
Nice.
Lee Candy Fitzwillie. Yeah, I mean, mostly because I had the time to work with her and really explore her. And I'm a
Mm.
theater trained actor, and
Do you know what
in Hollywood, we just don't have that much time.
I saw one of your videos. It was an interview, perhaps on your Twitter this week, maybe, and you mentioned that during the set of Django, you were just so engrossed in watching what was going on
Yeah,
around you that you zoned out and forgot that you were on the set.
I
I
did.
absolutely loved that because that would be totally something I would do.
I did. I was just like, I just got sucked in. And
Yeah.
honestly, I've been doing this for 25 years. And so that doesn't happen. It happened
Mm.
to me when I was working with Shirley MacLaine, but that was my very first movie, and she
Yeah.
was Shirley MacLaine. So, I mean, that seemed to me to be a normal thing, and it never happened again. I have worked with Academy Award winners chock-a-block. I mean, I have had such an incredible career as far as my co-stars go.
Well,
And yet that never happened again until I was working with Leo. And I
can I just say though, Leonardo DiCaprio is one of my all-time favorites that just I thought for so long has been underrated. Just
He is the
incredible.
finest actor working today. He is
Yeah.
the very finest actor working today. And I'm happy to work with somebody else to prove me wrong, but I'm pretty darn sure I'm right on that.
Just I don't know how accurate Wikipedia is because I've been wrong on this before. There's a massive list of people you've worked with, and I've
Yeah.
got a couple here that that are people that I'm very familiar with and just think are fine actors. And let me know if they're real or not. Matthew McConaughey,
Yeah.
Woody Harrelson,
Yes.
Will Smith.
Together. And Woody I've worked with twice.
Oh, amazing.
I worked with Matthew and Woody together.
Wow. Will Smith, Kevin Costner, and Samuel Jackson.
Yes.
That is a list, a very small list of a big list on that page.
Well, yeah, and Will Smith was at the same time as Gene Hackman.
Incredible.
My first movie was Shirley MacLaine, Miranda Richardson, and Juliette Lewis were all in one scene with me. Now, Jack Nicholson's wandering the set somewhere. Ben Johnson, it's his last movie. But those three women were in one scene with me. And
Wow.
Shirley MacLaine is Shirley effing MacLaine. And I mean, other than Maggie Smith, is there anybody else working alive today who is in that league? No, because Marlon Brando has passed. So she's Shirley MacLaine. And then Miranda Richardson that year had been nominated against herself.
Wow.
She was nominated for 2 different Academy Awards that year. And Juliette Lewis had just come off of getting nominated for Cape Fear. So that's my first movie.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it really is. It really.
How did you feel on that set? You know, as your first film, you must have been thinking, "Oh, crap."
Well, I'm going to say that I have a unique experience of life because I am very blessed that I am not easily intimidated. I have a lot of friends in high places and have always had a lot of fancy friends. My father is a powerful person, and so I grew up knowing that powerful people are totally human and have children and eat food and go to the bathroom and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, and that they're flawed individuals and they're just people. So I think having a powerful father in my home with me, and my mom was a beauty queen and all that, so I'm used to people noticing the people around me and knowing who they are, and like that wasn't as unusual for me. But more to the point, I'm used to the sense that you being powerful or having access to things that others don't doesn't make you less human.
Absolutely. So again, going back to that list, then it's going to be maybe hard for you to pick, but an actor that you would either A, love to work with again, or just one of your favorite actors you have worked with, who would you pick?
Well, Leo is definitely the finest actor working today, so I cannot say enough about working with him. It was an extraordinary privilege to watch him work. I had known him when he was a teenage boy and he was starting out in the film industry. He had already been working in TV for a long time. But I worked as a receptionist at the agency where he was being represented at that time. And so I've watched him grow as an actor, and he's just extraordinary. But I have a lot of the people I really wanted to work with have passed. And like Marlon Brando, we really wanted him for Hell Ride, and it would have been such a privilege if he had not passed while we were still getting that up and going for 7 years. But yeah, there are a lot of people whose work I admire. There are a lot of people who I find interesting as human beings and wouldn't mind getting to know through the excuse of working. But honestly, my day is not done yet, and I mean, I'll probably get to, yeah. I mean, I've done a commercial with Whoopi Goldberg. I've done it, what I mean? Like, there's so many things I've done that were not even part of they're not even on the internet, and they're part of my history as well. I've just been very blessed to work with some really extraordinary people.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. Have you got any tips then? I guess we talked about very briefly tips for authors.
Maggie Smith. I definitely want to work with Maggie Smith.
Okay.
There you go.
Well done for remembering that, because my memory is terrible.
Okay.
Slip out my brain quickly. So tips for someone who is wanting to go, okay, because this isn't something we normally cover, but as you're here, it's a bit of a shame not to use that information. But if someone was going completely brand new into the acting career, what advice would you give them?
Oh gosh. Anytime I start anything new at all, I study. I treat everything like college, and I put my back into it. I'm working on something new for me right now during this time, and I spent Saturday night watching videos of other people who've already done it and done it well. Because there's really nothing you can't learn anymore. I mean, the world is your oyster. And especially right now when all the experts are home and have time and are teaching us things. So I study anything that I'm going to do new. And I would recommend that people buy my book, not just because, of course, it's wonderful for me, but I wrote it as the book I never could find when I was working, that would have real, practical advice, like the real advice, not Zen talk, like not vague notions. I wanted to know, when do I join the union? When do I move to LA? How do I get a free dress for the red carpet? How do I talk to celebrities? How, not just how do I break down a scene? How do I get a commercial audition? How do I, which is all in there. But like the whole living of it, there's no book that had that. And I think that's way harder to find information about. And that should be readily available in any book about acting, should be how you do this as a lifestyle.
It is now.
Yeah.
It's there.
Yeah, so,
definitely. I
think the biggest thing people get confused by, though, is they think that all they have to do is get an agent, and then they'll get discovered, and that's how acting works. And acting is much more like being in the NBA. And I've never heard anybody be so ignorant and naive as to think that all they'd have to do to be in the NBA is get a basketball.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's a similar story with being an author, because you can have your book, option, but that still doesn't mean, that's still a long process to anything.
Yeah.
So, and I absolutely agree with the whole research, everything. There's many a thing I've learned from watching YouTube videos, fixing my car, learning music, all those things. It's all there. It's all available. So I don't think...
and it saves you. I mean, that's the thing that screenwriting taught me, that producing taught me, that everything about LA taught me, is that the amount of time you put into preparation is the amount of time you do not have to put into the part where everything costs money.
Yeah.
Yes, the preparation part is the cheapest part usually. And if you spend 3 months preparing to make a movie, that you only shoot for a month, that's about right. Like that's about what it should take, is 3 months of preparation to shoot this 1 month of movie.
Okay. I've got a random question to ask you now, but it's one that I asked a lot last season. And normally it was a battle between me and the other Chris, but he's not here, so I'm going to ask it anyway.
So you have to play both sides.
Yeah, it's fine. Pineapple and pizza. Do you agree with that, or do you not agree with that?
You know what? I'm okay. I'm a Southerner. I'm okay with sugar and meat. So
okay.
I'm fine with that.
You're my team.
I will say that the tomato sauce throws it all off a little, but
okay. What, on a pizza?
No, the idea of having tomato sauce with either ham or pineapple is already just, what are we doing here? but as far as having pineapple and ham, I don't mind that. And to put them on a pizza, there's a buffer there.
That's all good, because that means you're on my team with that one.
Oh, good.
The other one was, do you prefer Star Wars or Star Trek?
I'm going to have to go with Star Wars, because there's no Princess Leia in Star Trek.
There's not. No. They're both fantastic in their own right, but, Star Wars wins for me as well. And also, if you're a Star Wars...
I mean, just as a girl growing up, I don't think there's a lot of eye candy in Star Trek for young girls. Not a whole...
You've got Harrison Ford, haven't you, in Star Wars?
Well, and Mark Hamill for a young girl is
a
boy. I mean, he's a cute, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, boy, and sexually non-threatening. Which, when you're a kid, that's what you're looking for, So definitely. I think Star Wars has a giant edge over Star Trek. Plus, honestly, I saw them both as they were happening, and Star Wars came out in a movie theater. That was much bigger impression. And it was a blockbuster that I went to. I didn't go to Jaws. I was too little. So it was the first blockbuster that I ever waited in line and, all that stuff.
It's strange that doesn't really happen anymore, does it? With the cinema, you just kind of book tickets ahead of time and you just go.
It depends. I have to tell you,
where I go.
It was still, if it was a big enough opening, and still, really, honestly, here in New Orleans, we have a wonderful theater that's over 100 years old. That that is a single screen theater. I think it's the last one left in the state of Louisiana, and if they book the right movie, you're definitely waiting in line. Yeah.
Well, maybe that's something I need to aim for in life, to go and find one of these places. Okay, and the last one that we asked, and that was related to Star Wars as well, was, again, I don't know why, we kept going back there. Which was a better villain in Star Wars? Was it Kylo Ren, or that thing with the red face? I can't even remember him.
Great. So it's not like you're biased. Darth Vader is the answer. I don't know what we're talking about. It's
fine. Darth Vader wins.
Nobody ever goes, it was...
Darth Maul. Darth Maul. That thing with the double-ended thing with the red face.
Yes, I'm not going to be able to help you with that.
Nah, don't worry about that one. We'll move on.
But in any case, the answer is always going to be Darth Vader. One of those is an icon that you could use as an emoji, and the other are things you have to describe.
Well, we actually... it's a good point. But we actually... that question got that response so many times, because it was like, which was the better of these two? But everyone's like, Darth Vader. It's like, no, that's not the question. But,
No, I remember when I first met Quentin, he asked me, who is it, Beatles or Elvis? And I went,
that is a good one.
So
you went with Elvis.
My answer was Led Zeppelin, because that's my answer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was a good question.
Of course, the two, it's the Beatles, but my answer is Led Zeppelin.
Interesting. Have you been asked any other great questions by any famous people like that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're my friends, so I've been asked lots of questions.
Well, what's a good question we can ask on the show for future guests that has been asked to you by someone?
Oh, wow.
Because those questions that we asked were from last season, and we don't want to keep using them over and over. So we need some new questions, and I'm sure you've got some great ones.
Well, Elvis and the Beatles is for people that are over 30 or 40 or 50, but it does tell you what people are interested in, whether, style over substance kind of thing. Yeah, because I would say, for it illuminates something. I will tell you, I like to ask questions that people don't realize they're illuminating something.
Okay.
So, for example, if I were to ask you what was the best thing that happened to you today?
Well, this interview, of course.
Okay, well, so it won't be as easy for me to deduce anything from that because
Yeah.
we've not spoken of anything other than this interview. But normally, when somebody answers that, you can deduce a lot about them from the answer to that one simple question. For example, when I met Quentin, the first night that I met him, I asked him, "What's the best thing that happened to you today?" And he happened to have finished a script that day that
Oh,
he'd
wow.
been working on for a long time called Kill Bill. And as he's telling me his excitement about having finally come up with the resolution and, oh, he'd been working on it for years and da da da. I'm getting from that, okay, so this is a person who is self-sustaining.
Mm-hmm.
They find their joy within their own world. They love their work. They love their work enough that they don't need outside things as much as other people. And they get their self-esteem and their joy from their work. They love their labor. And sure enough, as I have now known him for decades, he is a person who is very self-sustained and very much finds his joy in his work, which is his passion and which keeps him always moving forward and thinking and filled, in lots and lots of ways. He's very full of the things that he has surrounded himself with, which are his own thoughts, his own ideas.
Fantastic. So we're gonna have to finish up soon because when my software hits an hour,
it all comes down.
It just goes crazy. Honestly, it's something weird with my system.
All your teeth go missing.
They're still there, sort of. Maybe. I will get. It's okay. It's fine. It happens when the sun comes out in Wales. It kind of goes crazy in this place. Yeah, it doesn't happen often. Here's a fact for you. We're talking about Elvis, as you mentioned him. I am most definitely in the Beatles camp. And that's because of influences when I was growing up and sort of my father being a fan. But Elvis, I'm not much of a fan of. But where I live now, for some bizarre reason, even though Elvis never, ever came here, it was one of the biggest Elvis conventions in Europe where I live every single year for no apparent reason.
Oh, okay.
It's very strange. Okay. So the last question I want to ask you, completely off topic. Well, it's not really, but it's film-based.
Are we involving the writing community?
Yeah, they honestly, I've held it together well today. Normally I'm a rambling mess that kind of forgets everything. I've sort of been there, but not quite, so I think it'll be fine. What are your top 3 favorite films for you to watch as opposed to...
Now, I can't do that. But if I were to give you just some and you can pick 3 from this,
okay.
Because of Scarlett O'Hara, I am always going to love Gone with the Wind. It is one of the greatest characters ever. And for women, we have so few to choose from that it really just has to be the greatest female film character ever. I like big things like E.T. and things that have captivated our imaginations as a culture. But I also like little things like What's Eating Gilbert Grape, which for me made me feel like somebody else had lived in their own lemonade farm and somebody else had their own kooky wild childhood that they wanted to share. And so yeah, I like, what I like? Excellence. I like excellence. I do. So whether it's Matrix or whether it is, just a really well shot documentary or, it doesn't, if it's excellent, I'm probably going to be into it. Yeah. I I'm not into horror movies, but when I saw Happy Death Day and Happy Death Day to You, I was like, these are so imaginative and creative and fun, and what a ride. There's excellence here, plus it's shot in New Orleans.
Would you consider writing in a different genre?
I have written my dozen or so screenplays. I have not repeated genres, and my mysteries are the first mysteries I've ever written in my life. Yeah, I don't attach myself to a particular genre.
Okay.
I think genre is a very interesting way to start, to build a fence around your story and give shape to the tale of your characters. But I think for me, character is always the thing that pushes my stories forward. So, the characters sort of tell me what genre they're in. But I have started with genre first and then found the characters later, and that can be interesting as well.
Well, I write kind of very much differently to you do. I just completely sit down and I kind of just spill it out somehow. But I'm very much similar in that respect, that the characters just create the story for me in a way. So I agree with that, and I think that's great. Okay, so I think we need to finish up, because as much as I want to keep talking, I will hit an hour and I'm going to be in trouble. But Laura, thank you so much for coming and speaking to us. It's been it's been fantastic and so insightful to a world we don't often get to see into. So honestly, thank you so much. And just before we do finish up, where can people find the information for your books and for anything else that you have coming up?
Well, I have a page on Amazon, as do most authors, but I also have a website, lauracayouette.com, that has links to my blog, my filmography, my teaching. I coach acting and writing and career planning and all sorts of things. So, all of the pieces of me are all brought together in lauracayouette.com pretty well.
Excellent. Well, as always, we will leave descriptions in there below. But what we also do with the guests that we have on the show is we will buy, I guess, why not? We'll buy your latest. Well, it's not your latest, is it? No, I can't even remember the names now. I've lost it, haven't I? It's not In the Know, is it? It's no
small parts.
I nearly got it. No small parts. We'll buy a copy of that and we'll give it away on the show.
Oh, great.
And what we do normally is have some sort of way of doing a competition, and sometimes that's sending in your favorite GIF or writing something or a selfie. Is there a specific way you'd like to give that away?
Oh, well, you keep springing things on me. I didn't know I had to be thinking. This is so early for me to be thinking. I don't know what the options are. So no, I don't think I have an idea, because I can't even know. I can't even think at what could possibly be.
We can do, the GIFs are always a good one. People love GIFs. So do you want to do a favorite actor or film GIF or something?
Sure. That sounds fun.
Yeah. Who do you want to do? As we spoke about Leonardo DiCaprio a few times, do you want to do the best Leonardo DiCaprio GIF, and we'll pick?
Oh, you know what though? He's so easy to find. A million.
I know he is.
I saw them all. So it'd be better if it was something more obscure, because I've seen all the Leo ones.
Okay.
Unless I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I've seen
all
the Leo ones. So yeah, I think we should open it to a broader thing than just Leo.
Okay.
Yeah, because then you're just going to see the same ones. Him with the champagne, him doing the dance, him, whatever. It's all the same ones.
Have you got an idea of who else or what else? It's hard, isn't it? I don't know. What about Quentin? Has he got many gifts?
I would love to see Quentin gifts. I don't know if there are any. I would love to see those.
That's the challenge then. Perhaps people can either give us some great ones or create a GIF of Quentin Tarantino. And once the show
that would
goes
make
out,
me happy, because I never see those.
So we will have a display of Quentin GIFs, and we will select a winner, and we will give Laura's book away. So thank you again. And again, I could keep going, and I'm very sorry that we are cutting that short, but we're very close to that 1 hour, and I will lose all my stuff. So again, thank you so much for coming and speaking to us. It's been an honor, absolute pleasure to have you on.
Well, you're very welcome, and I very much enjoyed it.
Oh, well, good. Thank you very much. I will again leave all the information below, and if that's okay with you, we'll tag you in the show when it gets dropped.
I would love that. Definitely tag me, or I won't know it happened.
And I think you should give someone a phone call back now, so you can tell them you're free. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you very much.
Bye.